When a dynasty stumbles, it doesn't always fall with a single dramatic explosion. Sometimes it's quieter, a late season loss that peels back the curtain and shows how fragile even the most gilded teams can be. The Kansas City Chiefs' 20-10 defeat to the Houston Texans felt like one of those moments, tidy, clinical, and suddenly historical. Arrowhead went from confident hum to a hush that said, without melodrama, "This is different." The loss dropped Kansas City to 6-7 and officially ended their 9-year reign atop the AFC West. Reuters. If you want the blunt takeaway up front, the scoreboard didn't just cost the Chiefs a game. It created a messy set of questions they now have to answer in January. Questions about roster construction, about whether aging stars can carry another playoff push, and the one that always gets whispered in hallways after surprising losses, about Andy Reid's future. For a coach who has built a modern dynasty in Kansas City, being pushed into the what-if conversation is as uncomfortable as it is inevitable when things go off script. Reuters' Andy Reid isn't some tentative figure on the sideline. He's been the architect of one of the era's great franchises, a coach who has steered the Chiefs to repeated postseason success, 5 Super Bowl appearances with the club, and 3 Lombardi trophies to show for it. Those aren't talking points. They're anchors. They shape expectations and make any season that falls short feel amplified. The coaching resume here matters because it's the reason the Chiefs and their ownership don't have a reflex to replace Reid after one bad month. They've seen what he builds when everything clicks. Kansas City Chiefs. That said, reports out of the national sports press make a crucial distinction. The franchise doesn't want him gone, and he doesn't look like he's packing it in either. Sources leaning on Dan Graziano's reporting say retirement chatter is low probability this offseason. Reid signed an extension in 2024 that reportedly runs through 2029, and insiders see that as a sign he's not ready to step away. In other words, the door for a dramatic Andy Reid retires headline remains closed for now, but the window for meaningful change in the Chiefs' supporting cast is wide open. Newsweek.com. That's where the real story lives. Reid's future isn't a binary choice between coach stays and coach leaves. It's tied to a web of other decisions, contract renewals, who the team keeps in free agency, how they shore up a suddenly creaky offensive line, and what Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce decide about their own next steps. Kelce, at the tail end of a legendary run, has said he'll decide after the season, a timeline that gives the Chiefs the courtesy of knowing where their veteran tight end stands before they chart a massive rebuild. The interplay of Reid's contract, Kelce's future, and Mahomes' trajectory turns the offseason into a chess match rather than a quick fix. AP News. Let's be honest for a second. Legacy in sports is a strange thing. Reid's legacy is already enormous. A coach who reinvented an offense, who built a winning culture, and who has 3 Super Bowl rings. But legacy doesn't pay the salary cap. Success this season, or the lack of it, forces blunt conversations about whether the roster around him can be realistically retooled while maintaining championship hopes. That's less about Reid's ability to coach and more about the league's brutal arithmetic: age, salaries, injuries, and the scarcity of elite talent. The coach who once marched to multiple Super Bowls is now playing a different game, one where architecting a next phase roster is as important as calling a trick play to win the fourth quarter. Kansas City Chiefs. So what are the real options on the table? One path is continuity. Keep Reid, do targeted surgery on the roster, and bet that Mahomes and the core can carry a transition year while younger pieces step into roles. That's messy and expensive. It requires roster flexibility and smart deadline moves, but it keeps the identity intact. The other path is a deeper reset. Allow contracts to breathe out, accept a tougher season in 2026, and rebuild more aggressively around salary cap realities. Either route would leave Reid's name attached to the outcome. If continuity works, he's genius. If it fails, his judgments will be scrutinized. ESPN.com, there's a human angle here too. Reid will turn 68 next spring, an age where next year begins to mean a lot more than it did a decade ago. Coaches talk about retirement like it's a distant shore, but it's also a personal decision about what life after football looks like. Reid signed an extension in 2024, and that contract length suggests both parties currently expect more seasons together. Still, when the dressing room quiets after a loss like this, you can almost hear the questions. How many more times will he want to haul equipment? How many more late nights charting game film? Those thoughts don't make Reid less of a legend. They make him, like everyone else, human. Newsweek.com. Then there's the practical heartbeat of the franchise, Patrick Mahomes. As long as Mahomes is under center, Kansas City has leverage to be aggressive in pursuit of short-term fixes. Mahomes still commands elite-level playmaking that many teams would build around without hesitation. But even the greatest quarterbacks have limits. And Mahomes can't single-handedly plug cap holes, compensate for lost draft capital, or replace a fading tight end like Kelsey if he does retire. Reid's task isn't simply play calling anymore. It's aligning a roster and a cap sheet to keep a generational quarterback in contention. That's a different leadership puzzle than X's and O's. AP News. Here's the way to read this moment. Andy Reid's fate is less a single event and more a scoreboard of converging realities. The loss to Houston is a trigger, a clarifying moment that highlights the Chiefs' vulnerabilities. But whether it becomes the turning point in Reid's story depends on choices the organization and Reid himself make over the next few months. Ownership's patience, Mahomes' sustained excellence, Kelsey's decision, and the front office's willingness to spend wisely will determine whether Reid remains the helmsman of a dynasty or the elder statesman who hands the keys to the next generation. Reuters. If you want a cinematic ending to this chapter, imagine Arrowhead months from now. If the Chiefs rally, the same crowd that worried in December will roar in January and say, this was just a blip. If they don't, that same place might one day be shown in highlight reels as the night a long run of dominance finally hit a crossroads. Either way, Andy Reid's name will be stitched into that story for his past triumphs and for whatever choices the Chiefs make next. That's the setup we're watching now. A coach with a monumental legacy, a team in scramble, and an off-season that could be as decisive as any play Reid ever called. AP News. The Kansas City Chiefs' collapse continued Sunday night, falling 20-10 to the Houston Texans and dropping to 6-7. The loss mathematically eliminated Kansas City from contention for the AFC West and left its playoff outlook tenuous at best. That bleak stretch has prompted off-season uncertainty, including questions about longtime head coach Andy Reid. Reid will turn 68 next spring, and retirement chatter has surfaced before. Still, sources say Reid is unlikely to step away after this season. Reid signed a contract extension in 2020-24 that runs through 2029, and reporting from ESPN's Dan Graziano indicates Reid isn't ready to hang it up. The extension and Reid's history suggest he intends to coach beyond 2025, despite a disappointing campaign. Reid became Chiefs head coach in 2013 and has overseen the franchise's modern-era dominance, 5 Super Bowl appearances and 3 championships. The Chiefs' recent struggles mark a rare season of adversity for a team that has been consistently elite under Reid and Patrick Mahomes. The threat of roster shakeups looms as well. Tight end Travis Kelsey is in the final year of his contract and could face a pivotal offseason decision of his own after 13 NFL seasons, adding another layer of uncertainty to Kansas City's near-term future. For now, the Chiefs are focused on the remainder of the schedule and salvaging their postseason hopes. The bigger questions about leadership and direction, however, appear likely to carry into the offseason.